So I've known Hannah Mouse 1 for a while now. She was one of the OGs that was subbed way back before this channel even existed. Rest in peace, Wild Games. She has a scratch channel of her own with only a few subscribers, you know, it's not like I'm jealous or anything. I mean, that would just be petty and silly but we decided it was about time we had a collab, so for the spooky season, we're going to be competing to make the game with spooky themes. Now the main gimmick of this competition is we have to base our games on one of our opponent's previously published scratch games. So I'm going to play through some of our old games and see what has the most potential. I eventually landed on a game called A Fisherman's Life, which was basically made for one of my first ever game jams I hosted on the old channel. It's quite similar to a game called Raft, but the main idea is you fish, collect resources, cook and eat, upgrade and expand your raft, and even craft better fishing rods. So first let's start on making the basic systems for our new game. So first up we need to make a raft. Now to be able to make a raft system where you can actually expand and build different things, we're going to have to create a tile system. Now if you've been on my channel much, then you'll know that I've made a lot of tile systems. In fact, it seems to be the only thing I ever actually do. But that's just because they're so cool, god damn it. So I'll start by making two different costumes. This will be the water, and this will be the raft. Then we'll make our sprite go to the corner, and then we just gotta make it so our sprite creates a bunch of clones to basically make a big grid system. And I can literally do that just off memory now. And it's not exactly hard code, it just goes to show how useful it is. And then we just gotta tweak these values until we end up with something like this. And then if we just make a player sprite, and then we just make it sit in the middle, and then we're just going to make it so once the game starts, if one of these clones is touching the player sprite, then it's going to switch costume to raft. So hopefully now when we press play, we have a little raft. Now obviously the main theme is being spooky, so to make this game spooky I'm gonna kind of base it around Greek mythology, because when you die in Greek mythology and you go to hell, you have to go through like this sea of souls or something like that, and there's like all these dead souls trying to like clamber onto your boat and sink you down. And I think that's a pretty good basis for the game idea, so I'm gonna quickly make some spooky art and try and give this game a little bit of an edge. And I've just finished redesigning the sprites, and as you can see everything's just a little bit more spooky. And if you look closely you can see I've made these like little ghost soul guys just to go along with the theme, but I thought it's pretty cool. But now we need to get some sort of functionality going on with the game, so at the moment you can't do anything. So first up, let's give our player some movement, just like that. We can move around. And now it's time for fishing. So I'm going to make a real basic fishing rod costume just like that. Then I'm going to make another one and flip it. And we're going to make sure our tiles can be clicked. And when it's clicked, we're going to activate a fishing variable. And then we got to make sure it switches to the fishing costume once we start fishing. So now when I go to fish, it will show us fishing. And then if I go to the other side, it'll switch to the costume that's fishing on that side. Although that's only based on how the player moves. So say they walked this way and then went back a little bit, then pressed it, would be the wrong way. But I'm just gonna hope that the player doesn't do that. Now instead of collecting scrap metal and wood and planks and that kind of stuff, since we're trying to make a spooky game, our resources are gonna be souls, bones and flesh. So if I just add a variable for each of our resources, now we just got to find a way to activate a fishing event so we can actually start harvesting those resources. Now I've used a pretty simple method. Basically it detects if we've started fishing, then it waits between 5 to 10 seconds, then it just double checks that you're still fishing, then we play a splash sound just to indicate to the player that you can now reel in your catch, and then we activate fishing harvest, which is where you have a 1 second gap where you can click to collect your resources, but if you miss that 1 second window, then you miss your chance. We set fishing harvest to 0 and set fishing to 0, and you'll see that work here. Again, we start fishing, then fishing harvest should turn to 1. There's a splash, then we can collect it. And you can see we got some resources now. So that's the fishing done. Now we gotta add some sort of building mode, because obviously we're gonna want the player to be able to expand their raft and place down different types of tiles. So I've basically reformatted the game, and now I've added our little build menu down here. Now you see when I select different ones, it'll change the build tool. Then if you want to deactivate the build tool, you just press it again. So now we need to make sure that this can actually interact with the tiles. So first we make them detect when they've been clicked. Then we check what mode build tool is on, and then we switch the costume to the correct costume. We should be able to select destroy, and then hopefully, hey, And now we can build rafts and expand it. And then obviously destroying stuff will be free, but we need building rafts to actually cost something. So we'll make it check if we've got enough of each material. And then we just take away however much building a raft costs from the player's resources. So at the moment I've set the prices to 5 bones and it should be 3 flesh. Now if we try and place a raft, it's not going to work. But then if we go fishing for a little bit, so I've collected enough resources. Now hopefully I should be able to place a raft. Hey, it works. So it took away all the resources that it needed to, and we successfully built a raft. So now that we can expand the raft, we need something that we can actually do with it. And I think the first thing we should probably do is make a way to cook food. Now the idea is we have a blender, which is going to blend bones and flesh together, which is going to make an edible paste. Now you can eat the paste by itself, although it won't give you much nutrition, or you can cook it to make a kind of like bone and flesh bread. So I've made the costume, and now all we gotta do is make it placeable, which is basically the exact same process as we did for placing down a raft. Now this one I'm gonna make it a bit more expensive, so now it costs 10 bones and 6 flesh. Now we just need to copy this sprite over to the build bar, and now if we quickly load in some hacks, then we should be able to place a blender. Hey, just like that. But it wouldn't make sense to have a floating blender. So I'm going to quickly make it so it has to be on a raft tile before you can place it. And now we can't place it on an ocean tile. But if we build an extra raft bit, then we should be able to place a blender. There we go. Okay, so we got our first little workbench of the game. Now we just need to make it usable. So hopefully now when we click on it, it'll charge us 1 bone and 3 flesh. Now it'll take away some of our resources, play a blender sound, and then change Soylent by 1. I've decided to call the bone and flesh mix Soylent because, because of Soylent Green, you know? I love that movie. But let's just test that real quick. If we build a blender, and then hopefully we should be able to just click it. Okay, so it's working. And just like that, we've gained 1 Soylent. Okay, so now we can make yummy Soylent. We should probably make a hunger system. So I'm gonna design a little sprite here. So I just finished up setting up a quick hunger bar. And you can see it's this line of meat. And you'll never guess where I got the inspiration from. But if I change the hunger, then the hunger bar goes down. If I increase the hunger, it'll go up as well. So we've got to start on 10 hunger and then forever. I'm gonna make it a bit random. We just need it to wait, let's say 30 to 40 seconds. Then we gotta change hunger by -1. So now, let's do a little bit of fishing. I just realized I haven't even had the ability to eat Soylent yet. Right, for that we're gonna need some sort of inventory. Now I'm gonna keep the 3 main resources up the top. I think instead of a craft menu, we can have an inventory. Now this is just gonna be a very basic inventory. But we're going to use the inventory for items that you can do actions on, like for example Soylent, you can eat it, and we need a way to display UI for that, so the inventory is a good bet. And any crafting, we can just make a block for it. Now we need to make an inventory menu, which is very easy. I just literally copy and pasted the same for the build menu. So now when we switch to inventory, we have space to put all of our items. And we're going to copy that sprite again for action buttons, and here you can see I've got that working. And now when we click it, we're going to check which costume it is, and then we're going to check if we actually have any Soylent. And then the last check is just going to see if we're too full to eat. And if all that's true, we're going to change Soylent by -1, then we're going to change hunger by 1. And as I said, we're eventually going to be able to cook Soylent, and that'll give us more hunger points. So now I'm just going to collect a bunch of resources and see if we got that working. Now we just got to blend them up. There we go, we got 1 Soylent, and now hopefully should be able to eat it. Hey, we can blend more up and eat more. Perfect. So obviously now that we finished doing the hunger system, we need to make a health system. So we have our health bar, and then it just regularly checks if hunger is smaller than 1, so if it's equal to 0 basically. Then we'll change health by -1, wait another 30 seconds and check again. And I think we should add when we eat that it also changes health by 1, because otherwise there's no other way to regenerate. Alright, so we actually have a bit of a challenge now. in the sense that you can actually die. But nothing happens when our health reaches 0, so we need to make a death screen, which is probably the easiest thing to make. It's just a big black square, put it in the middle, and then we just write, "You dead." And we just gotta make it show when health is 0, and now we have a game. Now unfortunately I'm gonna have to leave it here because this was a 3-day challenge, and I have reached those 3 days. In fact, I started this on Monday, so I'm over by 2 days because I lost all my progress because a bunch of files got corrupted. But I'm going to leave a link in the description to my game, Hannah's game, and a poll where you, yes you, can vote on whose game is better, although please try and be unbiased. But anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next devlog.